straight towards the middle, but as you're approaching the end of the pit straight, move over to the right. Do be careful of people exiting the pits though, because you are exiting right on their line. For this first corner, you want to be looking for the 100-meter board or the end of this curb. You want to be braking right about there. Brake a little bit, release the brakes at around here, trailing a little bit. Go take about this much curb, just don't touch those yellow sausages on the inside. Stay towards the middle. You can hit this curb depending on the car and setup, but I personally do not hit it because it doesn't settle all the cars I've driven in it. And try and get on the throttle before you clip the apex. Run this wide. Do not hit those white posts because you will invalidate. Coming up on this little weird chicane complex thing before the straight, you want to be looking for the 100 board in line. Brake about there. Trail it for a little bit and then release the brakes here. You can carry some kind of speed. Take about this much curb. You don't want to get too much that your car bounces around a lot. I personally blip the brakes here. You might be able to get away with not doing that. You want to be just placing your car about here without going beyond those little rain gutters, because that is stepped and it will bounce your car around. Follow the rubber. Have a tiny little blip of the brake to get the car turned in. Get about this much without hitting those yellow sausages. Try and get on the power as early as possible. I release the throttle about here to get the car turned in for this corner, and then once I get to it, I start applying power. Try and keep it towards the middle of the road, a little bit to the left side. Clip this apex and clip this apex, but be careful, don't take too much that your car bounces around. You want to take just enough that you travel a short distance, but also keep all your speed without getting bounced around by the curb. And everyone knows this straight, the longest straight in the game. Now coming up to one of the trickiest corners, one of the fastest corners in the game too, with the braking zone. This one you want to look for the start of this curb on the left. You want to brake a little bit after it, probably closer to the 50, like about that gutter or that line right there. Or have a short tap of the brakes. You might have to brake a little bit longer if you're feeling unsafe. Get the car turned in. You might have to apply some throttle to keep the back end in check. And generally, you only want to ride a little amount of the curb, but not too much, because A, you might invalidate, and B, your car might bottom out and you'll get sent spinning into the parking lot that is Paul Ricard. You can take a lot of the track limits here, but once you get to these posts, you want to immediately go back to the right of them, because you will invalidate if you do not. And for this next upcoming corner, there's really no close braking marker, but you see that post, the first post on the right with the tree. I brake a little bit before that, trail it a little bit, I release the brakes as I get to this first apex, and then I have a little amount of throttle, maybe stabbing it a little bit. Well, stabbing isn't really the right word because you're fully throttling it, but tiny little dabs of the throttle. There we go. Release the brakes, or release the throttle, maybe even tiny bit brake if you were understeering. Clip this apex, try and get it full throttle before it. Run about this wide, do not go wider than that white line beyond the curb, or else you will invalidate. Follow the rubber and the curvature. You're looking for about the end of this off-road on the left. That is where you're going to be braking. A little bit before that, maybe even at it if you're driving in different setup or different car. Generally want to late apex this second gear. Don't clip this apex because it is quite high, but try and get into the throttle as early as possible. Once again, don't run wider than those white boards or posts. Follow the curvature of the road. For this next braking zone, you are looking for the end of this curb right there. Brake a little bit after it, but you don't want to be on the brakes for too long because you want to be able to carry all your speed through this corner. You can use a bit of this curb, just don't invalidate your lap by going too much, by taking too much. And for this one, for this final corner, you're looking at your brake marker, at least my brake marker, is about the start of the rubber on the left on the curb. So a tiny little bit of brake, you don't need to go 100%, maybe even trail a bit if you're understeering. And do not get on the throttle until you come alongside the apex. And once again, don't go wider than those white boards or you will invalidate. And that's a lap of Paul Ricard.